Okay, so let's go back to the safe retirement roadmap. So we've forecasted the future and we've kind of understood what's important to us in the future. The next step is to say, well, okay, all of that's well and good, Charlie, if I was starting afresh, but I'm not. I've already got existing pensions, I've already got existing savings, I've already got existing investments. What do I do with those? Because they're not in the perfect situation at the moment. So that's where the E of the Safe Retirement Roadmap kicks in, which is evaluate. And we've got to really look closely at each of the individual components that you've already got before we can decide on the best way forward. And there's actually 3 ways that we need to evaluate each of those existing pensions, investments, savings, to work out whether they're good or not. Because what we want to do is get rid of the chaff, separate the wheat from the chaff, get rid of the chaff and keep the nuggets that are good and worth keeping, and make better use of all the bits that aren't. So as I said, there's 3 key areas to evaluate your existing investments and pensions. And the first is the investment performance. So the investment performance is, how hard is that money working for you? Is it growing as well as it could be? And is it, are you generating the returns that you get? Now this chart is another a genuine example of a client of ours. He came to us, this guy's an entrepreneur, came to us, he'd already got an existing financial advisor, and he was pretty happy with what was going on because he'd had 10% growth on his pension in the last 3 years, and 10% felt pretty good. Compared to what you get in the bank, that seems okay. It's significantly better than what you're getting in the bank in fact. So he was pretty happy with what was going on until we showed him what a properly managed portfolio would have delivered him over that same time. Roughly an additional 25% growth in just 3 years from having a properly managed discretionary portfolio. And I'll come back to what that means later on. But just getting that money working hard. So what we can do is we need to look back at the performance and say, well, okay, how has the investment done in the past? But also we can look forward and say, what are the likely returns and the likely levels of risk for that investment? So the first piece of the jigsaw is, are the returns as good as they should be? Second one is the charges. How much money is the provider of that product taking out of your account each month or each year to pay for the privilege of having that account with them? Because quite often that can be quite a lot of money. And if it is, that's more of your compound growth that's being ripped away from you. So if you're missing out on good returns and you're paying high charges, which quite often you will be if that pension is a little bit older, then your compound growth is going to be way slower than it should be, and it's going to take you a lot longer to get to retirement. The third reason, or the third thing that you need to look at when you're evaluating your existing schemes is the sort of features and functionality. Sometimes you'll have some quirky guarantees in there, sometimes you'll have some quirky features in there, and those can be really valuable or really destructive. So you just need to look at all of those complicated little bits. Now that can be where it gets a bit testing. So it's just why it's important to seek advice when you're looking at evaluating your existing pensions and investments. Because some of those benefits can be really valuable and really worth hanging on to, but others can be really destructive if you're not aware of them. So those are the 3 things that you need to evaluate. And I liken it to the car industry, and in fact my own personal car journey. So my first ever car was a turquoise Vauxhall Nova. Here it is. I used to call it, I was an Oasis fan at the time, so I used to call it the turquoise Supernova after the Oasis after the Oasis song. And I had one of those yellow blocks that you can see here. Do you remember you put across the steering wheel so that nobody would steal it? As if anybody wanted to steal my turquoise Nova. It had a manual choke. You probably wouldn't remember those, but that was a dice roll, particularly in the winter. You put the manual choke on, you try and start the car, no, you flooded the engine, go away for 5 minutes and come back and maybe you'll have more luck next time. All of these things just seem completely crazy now. Nowadays, I drive a Tesla. 100% electric car, the technology, the software downloads up overnight, and just the car just gets better and better as the technology evolves. It's got autopilot, so it'll drive itself. I can drive it from my phone. I mean, it's just a million miles away from where my turquoise Nova was. And I'm not telling you this to brag, I'm telling you this because the pensions industry and the investment world has gone through the same revolution. In fact, pretty much every sector has gone through the same revolution. It's just that people don't seem to see it with their money. You know, we quite often meet people where they've still got pensions set up from the mid-80s or the mid-90s or even the mid-2000s, and they're carrying their life savings around in these things. You know, if I was still carrying my family around in my turquoise Vauxhall Nova, how safe would they be on today's roads? Not very safe. And that's the same with your money. If you're keeping your money in old pension accounts, then it's just not running as efficiently as it could be. It's not as safe as it could be. So you need to reevaluate and get rid of the rust and improve your finances so that they're fit for purpose for the years ahead of you. So going back to the Safe Retirement Roadmap, there's one last step. So we've evaluated your existing finances, we've got a clear map for the future, and we know where we want to go in the future. There's one last step to the Safe Retirement Roadmap, and that is to pull together your existing investments that aren't very good and reorganise so that you've got one centralised place to manage your money properly for the future. So the A of the Safe Retirement Roadmap stands for amalgamate. So amalgamate is about bringing things together so that you can manage your money properly in one central place. Because typically what happened in the past was that you had a few you worked for a few different companies, so you've got several pensions that were sort of dragging behind you, then maybe you got a few ISAs and investments that you set up over the years, and then maybe a few shares that you picked up along the way, and maybe the odd bond that the bank sold you. And all of these things are with different companies, they've all got different investments within them, and as a result, you've got no easy way of keeping track of what's going on with them. And so you just get the paperwork in, you file it, and you forget about it. There's no easy approach to, you can't have one overall investment approach when your money's dotted around 15 different companies. The modern way to manage your money is with what's called a wrap platform. So a wrap platform brings those tax wrappers together, because those tax wrappers, as we've already talked about, is still really valuable, but we want them all in one centralised place. By doing that, we can have all of our pension investments and savings in one place, so that we can log on and let's see a live valuation all in one simple place. We can have one overriding investment strategy. So rather than picking different investments for each of your different accounts, you can have one investment strategy that you can apply to the entire platform, which means you can do a far better job, but it means you can also have much more clarity on whether it's actually working as well for you as you expected it to. Of course, when it comes to taking in income, it's much more simple, because again, all your money's in one place, and you've just got so much more flexibility and features that you can use, like moving money from one account to the other, within the tax boundaries that are of course there. You can't take money out of the pension before 55, but you could move money from your other investments into your pension, often cost-free. So having your money on a wrap platform just allows you to manage your money far, far better for the future.